incredibly honored to be here celebrating our veterans today. Today is about paying tribute to those who have served our country. At this time, if you know someone who is serving or who has served our country, would you please stand? Take a look. Nearly every one of us knows someone who has served our country. Thank you. Today is a reminder of all the men and women who have given of themselves to protect our freedoms. Veterans, the Oshkosh North community is grateful for all you have sacrificed in order to protect our freedoms. It is my pleasure to begin our program and introduce our MC and Student Council President, Elise Liskey.
Thank you, Mrs. Kiffmeyer. Good morning, students, parents, community members, and our honored guests. My name is Elise Liskey, and I am the Student Council President here at Oshkosh North High School. I will serve as your Master of Ceremonies today for our program. At this time, would everyone please rise and remove your headwear as the color guard performs the presentation of our nation's colors. Please remain standing, face the flag, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. During the War of 1812, an American lawyer named Francis Scott Key witnessed the bombardment of Fort McHenry by the British Royal Navy. Despite the horrific battle, the American flag still remained visible, and Key was so moved that he wrote lyrics about this event. Although the poem has 4 stanzas, only the first is commonly sung. Today, Haley Fox, Boston Geis, Isaac Jeffers, and myself will sing the 3rd stanza accompanied by piano, and then we invite you to please join us as the orchestra and choir, under the direction of Ms. Gloria Dorschner, come in on the standard first verse.
Shall stand between their loved homes and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, and God is our trust, and the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Would everyone please take your seat? We are proud to welcome our guests to the 10th annual Veterans Day program at Oshkosh North High School. We will continue to have this program annually as we pay our respect to the people who have made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms we all enjoy. It is now my pleasure to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Bob Hoffman, who we are honored to have present the history of Veterans Day.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Jackie for inviting me back. I've been here for quite a few times. And also the group of instrumental and chorus that we have over there. A lot of talented kids. Keep it up. And then the teachers and staff here that keep this place running. Got a good laugh on that one. And then the veterans who kept this country great and free. And last but not least, all you students. You're our future, and you need to keep this country free and great as it always has been. Now a little history on Veterans Day. World War I, known as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919. However, the fighting ceased 7 months earlier when the armistice, or temporary cessation of hostilities, took place between the victorious Allies and the Central Powers. The armistice went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, November 11th, 11 a.m., 1918. In November of 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day with the following words: "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and gratitude for that victory." In June of 1926, the Congress officially recognized the end of World War I by a resolution which requested the President to issue a proclamation to display the flag on all government buildings on November 11th. In May of 1938, November 11th was made a legal holiday known as Armistice Day. It was to honor the veterans of World War I. In 1954, after World War II and the Korean War had ended, Armistice Day became Veterans Day, and November 11th became a day of honor all American veterans of all wars. In 1971, the observance of Veterans Day became a Monday holiday. Many states and a very great number of Americans did not agree with this decision, so in 1978, the observance of Veterans Day was returned to its original date of November 11th, regardless of what day of the week on which it falls. The observance of Veterans Day on November 11th not only preserves the historical significance of the date, but focuses our attention on the importance of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor Americans' veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. On behalf of a grateful nation, I wish to extend to all veterans our sincere thanks and appreciation for securing the freedoms we hold so dear, those freedoms which make the other 6.7 billion people on this planet wish they could be here with us. Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. At this time, I would like to ask North Junior Nathan Kotzer and North Senior Emma Kalishek from our Communities program to come forward and present a check to Mr. Jeremy Van Beek, founder of Got Your Six Canines. Proceeds are from the Sweat for a Vet fundraiser held at Oshkosh North on November 4th.
Hello, my name is Nathan, and I'm a junior in the Communities program at Oshkosh North. Communities is an interdisciplinary program that encourages us to be engaged learners and citizens who make an impact within our local and global communities. Now, before I start my speech, I'd like to just thank all of the veterans who could make it here today for your service, and also clarify that at the moment, it would be Lynn from Got Your Six K9 who will be receiving the check. Now, recently, we studied the issues facing veterans as they transition from active duty to life at home. We learned through research and personal stories that the struggle with PTSD is serious and sometimes symptoms are difficult to manage. We also learned that more than 15 veterans a day take their own lives. This was a deeply disturbing fact to my fellow students and I, and we decided that we had to try and at least make some difference. We decided to bring back our Sweat for a Vet event that we hosted in 2019. Some of you may remember it, but this year we shifted the event from the hallways of our school to this field house. Now, with the support of the Oshkosh North Community's students, rallied together, filled our hallways with a variety of CrossFit challenges, and raised $5,000 for Got Your Six Canines. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Lynn and the service dog Stig to accept this check in the amount of $8,300.91. On behalf of all my classmates in the Communities program, I would like to thank everyone here that supported our event and this cause. We know there is a veteran out there whose life will change as a result of all of us coming together to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Thank you.
I don't know if I was scheduled any time to say anything, but I asked if I could just thank you guys so much, because this is our second biggest donation, and you guys got us our first biggest donation. And I remember what it feels like to be in high school, although it was a very long time ago, and feeling like you maybe don't belong. And as a 51-year-old person, I'm telling you, this is how you belong. You get involved in your community, you take care of those people who have taken care of us, you support our veterans, and you support each other. And we're a very small group, and all we do is work with dogs, and I can't thank you guys enough for this. It's incredible. So, thanks. Stick up. Sure, ready.
Thank you. Our music department would like to pay tribute to our veterans with a song entitled Armed Forces, the Pride of America. This selection will feature each branch of the armed forces. The orchestra will be under the direction of Ms. Yukiko Grine. At this time, please welcome our Oshkosh North High School choral director, Ms. Bridget Duffy-Ulrich, with a few comments before they begin. Ms. Duffy-Ulrich?
Our Armed Forces Salute Medley recognizes each of the branches of our United States military. As we sing each service song, I will announce which group it represents. If you are a member of that branch, we invite you to stand as we present your song. On behalf of the music department, thank you for your service. United States Army.
Over hill, over dale, we will hit the dusty trail, and the caissons go rolling along. In and out, in and shout, counter march and ride your mount, and the caissons go rolling along. There is high, high, in the field artillery. Shout out your numbers
United States Marines. The United States Navy.
Away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home.
The United States Coast Guard.
Place our trust in thee. Serve and soar at elegant. I shall our purpose be. Semper Paratus is our guide, our fame and glory too. To fight, to save, to fight and die. I must guard we are for you.
The United States Air Force.
Into the sun. Here they come to meet our thunder. Atom boys, give it a gun. Down the dives, under the flame from under. Off apart, careful goes. We live in fame, we'll go down in flame. Hey, nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force.
Thank you, Music Department, for your performance. We would now like to welcome our speaker for today, Captain Cody Anderson. Captain Cody Anderson is a 2003 graduate of Oshkosh North High School. He enlisted into the active Army in September of 2003 as a 13B Cannon crew member. He served his initial enlistment as a member of Charlie Battery, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Field Artillery in Gießen, Germany, and deployed in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2005 to 2007. Upon completion of his initial enlistment, he joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard as a gunner for Alpha Battery, 1st Battalion, 120th Field Artillery in Marshfield, Wisconsin, and enrolled in the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in philosophy and the Chancellor's Award for Excellence in 2011. At this time, he was also commissioned as a distinguished military graduate through the Fox Valley Reserve Officers Training Corps Battalion as a field artillery lieutenant in the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Following commission, Captain Anderson served as fire direction officer, platoon leader, and commander of Bravo Battery, 1st Battalion, 120th Field Artillery in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, while also serving as the battalion human resource officer in Wisconsin Rapids. In 2016, he served as operations officer for the 1st Battalion, 121st Field Artillery, headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He deployed as the commander of Bravo Battery, 1st Battalion, 121st Field Artillery, in support of Operation Spartan Shield and the United Arab Emirates, and Operation Freedom Sentinel in Afghanistan from 2018 to 2019. He is currently assigned as an Army Congressional Fellow earning a master's degree from George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and awaiting a congressional staff assignment for 2022. Captain Anderson currently resides in Oshkosh with his wife and 2 children. Captain Anderson?
Thank you. Bear with me just one moment. I have some pictures for you guys instead of just words. I'll make sure that that's set. Okay. No, where's the slide is on. All right, so you can see I'm really good with technology already. So I'm sure that you'll be entertained by the way I put a slideshow together as well. All right. So good morning again. Thank you very much for having me. So a little bit about myself before I get into my story. The first thing that I would like to say is that I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I'm married to the lovely Mrs. Anderson, who some of you may know here as a math teacher here at Oshkosh North. There's a picture of her and our kids, Reed and Madeline, who are also joining us today, who go to Webster and Washington. So we're here, we're Oshkosh folk, and we love it here. Also, my mother and her husband and grandfather joined us today, so I'm glad to share this experience with them. I'm a 2003 North High School graduate, as was mentioned in the introduction, and I'm a veteran that's about midway through my Army career. And the photo on the right is of me at the Pentagon at an award ceremony to receive the General Douglas MacArthur Leadership Award by a 4-star general and the president of the MacArthur Foundation. So this presentation is going to walk through how I went from your seats in the bleacher to the Pentagon. I realize, though, that military service is not for everyone. And so while I appreciate how November 11th focuses specifically on veterans, I want to make clear that we appreciate the many, many forms of public service that there are out there, like these pictures depict. And there are also the many branches which our music department so warmly welcomed. I think soon they'll need to add a song for the Space Force. I don't think they've been around long enough to have a veteran, but in the near future. And my story is National Guard and Army specific, but I hope that some of you can find inspiration regardless of the path that you choose. Also, the different components, I wanted to give a shout out to them too, because we have, in the armed forces, we have the active component, the National Guard, and the Army Reserves, and we have many DA civilians or just federal civilians that also support the Department of Defense. And the last thing before getting into my story, I want to pay tribute to a great American who's no longer with us. This is a picture of Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez, who was a Vietnam War era veteran and a Medal of Honor recipient with an incredible story. He has a really powerful speech on YouTube. I encourage you to check it out sometime. If you can find 25 minutes, I promise you will not regret it. In his speech, he addresses being called a hero, and that despite the many times that he risked his life to save his comrades, he doesn't consider himself one. Instead, he points to the families of the veterans and to the wounded, and he concludes by saying that you, the students in the bleachers, who are staying in school and saying no to drugs are the real heroes. It's probably easy to dismiss the notion of being called a hero while sitting in the bleachers, but as I get older, I'm starting to understand his point. So I'm 36 now, and half a lifetime ago, I was an 18-year-old senior sitting in the bleachers. And just like my generation of soldier is going to carry the torch from the earlier generation of veterans, you are all going to carry the torch for America into the middle of the 21st century. So a little bit about me. So I was born in Kaukauna, moved here to Oshkosh. And although I stand before you in a fancy uniform, I think that many of you are going to be surprised by what kind of kid I was 18 years ago. So 7th and 8th grade, went to Webster Stanley, and then I spent 4 years here at North. I was raised by my mother. My dad was never around. He was often in trouble with the law, and he spent a lot of time behind bars due to poor decisions with drugs and alcohol. I've got 2 younger brothers, and it's probably then not surprising, knowing that being raised by a single mom with 3 kids with no child support to help in, that things were pretty tight at home. And I don't bring this up to suggest that I had it bad or worse than any in the audience, because I understand that many of you are experiencing the same situations or even worse. And I always had my mom in my corner. So I had a leg up there in case some of you don't have that good parental support. As far as what kind of a kid I was, I bounced around different cliques. I would categorize myself in 7th and 8th grade as a hick. I know that my 7th grade photo, I was wearing cowboy boots, a belt buckle, and a bolo. But then I transitioned from that into gangster. I was wearing FUBU clothes. I was blasting explicit rap. I thought it was cool to sag my pants. After that, I transitioned to what I'd call a gamer, just spending video games every moment that I had. For me, it was World of Warcraft and Counter-Strike and Warcraft. Probably would be doing Call of Duty and Fortnite today. And then I definitely have a period that I would call undefined, because you don't go from a hick to a gangster overnight. So there is a transition period. I'd like to talk about what sorts of things make a good soldier. First is a scholar. And I want to commend those of you who are on honor rolls or who put effort into your academics. My high school GPA was not honor roll worthy. In fact, I had to take summer school after my senior year just to graduate with a 1.3 GPA. Athletes, I want to commend those of you who are in team sports and who understand the values of teamwork, discipline, and fitness and what it takes to compete in athletics. I was not an athlete. I tried my freshman year, but I quit because winning is not easy and practice is hard. Leaders, I commend those of you who are active in clubs, programs, or community involvement. I myself was selfish, I skipped school, and I made the jobs harder for my teachers by acting out in class. So by my senior year, my biggest accomplishment was just staying out of enough trouble in order to be eligible to enlist in the active army. So I didn't have these attributes when I became a soldier. But through service and discipline, I became a scholar, an athlete, and a leader. Throughout the rest of this presentation, I'm going to share with you my military experience, which started out with 16 weeks of combined basic and advanced training called OSIT as a 13 Bravo Field Artillery Cannoneer. I did not know what field artillery was when I joined. They just said I'd get a $5,000 bonus and could jump out of airplanes, so I said, sign me up. If you're unfamiliar with what the field artillery is, here's a short video that shows you what we do. Well, thank you. On behalf of the field artillery community, I'm grateful for your applause because that's a lot of fun to do. That is a lot of fun. And I've been able to do everything in that video. Fun fact, you can do everything in that video right here in Wisconsin in the National Guard with our cannon and rocket battalions that are headquartered in the central state in the Milwaukee area. And the gentleman who did today's color guard can get you in touch with how to do that in either the Guard or the ROTC program, Sergeant Rushville and Sergeant Peterson. So I encourage you to reach out to them if you think any of that stuff looks pretty cool. But back to the presentation, I'd like to talk you through advancement in the military. And like most things, you start at the bottom. In the field artillery world, the bottom of the cannon section is called the powder monkey. When the cannon crew does all the fun stuff, the powder monkey just runs up with the explosives and then stands back and waits. So I equate this like being the tire inflator on a NASCAR pit crew. There's a lot more exciting jobs out there. And just like another well-known American hero, I wanted to go beyond the pit crew and become the driver. So I'm going to talk you through the progression of being a cannoneer in common terms. First, after you're the powder monkey, you become the guy who stands in the woods and waits. We consider this the advanced party. After that, you can become the note taker or radio telephone operator. And we have our number 1 and number 2 positions that load and shoot the cannons. Then you can manage the ammunition and finally become the cannon pointer before becoming the cannon boss or the section chief. So the rank of sergeant is what I attained on the enlisted side, and I was the cannon pointer or gunner. And I started to consider things that took a bit more responsibility to do. So next I'll explain what you need to learn to become the fire direction officer, which is the entry-level position in field artillery on the way to becoming a platoon leader or a battery commander. So I'm gonna talk you through what we call the call for fire process. And this is going to tie together some of the clips you saw in the videos. So right now on the bottom there you have a forward observer. They identify a target, which we'll say is here. They're going to make a radio call. I know these graphics are amazing, so take note. They're going to make a video call or a radio call to our brain center, the computers in the tents. If anybody knows the Pinky and the Brain reference, you are old like me. And they send the information needed to the gun line. The gun line then executes the fire mission, engaging the target. That's artillery in a nutshell. But it can get complicated. So as you can see here, now there's a hospital in the way. We can't shoot through the hospital. So we need the computer folks, the brain center, to give us a new firing solution. And in this situation here, now we just fire over the hospital, doing a high-angle fire mission, and we can hit the target. But it gets more complicated. It's not uncommon to have a pair of Black Hawk helicopters coming into the combat zone to do a medical evacuation or retrieve the wounded. So when they're flying their helicopters in, they don't want to run into the bullet. So you have to be able to communicate to them where that's at. And it gets even more complicated because you might have the Air Force coming in with some close air support to engage another target on the battlefield. And they also don't want to run into the bullet. This is called airspace deconfliction, and it's one of the most important things that we do in the field artillery. So the solution to the problem, what we like to say on the gun line by the cannon is it's a big sky and a little bullet, so just chill out, pilots, you'll be fine. I'm sure the members of the Air Force here wouldn't agree with that. So what we need to do is understand exterior ballistics, and we have to know the location of our projectile in space and time. So basically, you need to know math and science. With my 1.3 GPA barely getting through high school, I wasn't ready yet. So, we lose the sound?
Oh, back to school, back to school.
And I'll have just one more video later for the sound piece. Thank you. Really tied my clip together. Needed that, Adam Sandler. All right, so lucky for me, though, my enlisted service gave me the confidence and focus that I needed. If I got through 15 months in Iraq, college was less intimidating. Service also helped me get accepted into college because of my poor grades I told you about, and then the GI Bill paid for it. Joining ROTC and the National Guard made college a paying job for me. But it also gave me a support network. The biggest reason that I joined the ROTC and the National Guard is because I learned in the active duty that the Army will not quit on you. So as a first-generation college student, going to college can be intimidating. And I knew that if I was in the ROTC program, they were going to hold me accountable and help me get to the finish line. And this is where I truly became a scholar. As mentioned in the introduction, I went from academic probation to the honors program, graduated distinguished military grad, the Chancellor's Award for Excellence at UWO, top of my class at Field Artillery Basic Officer course and Captain's Career course, and I got to do the fire direction job and platoon leader and command 2 field artillery units here in Wisconsin, one of which on a deployment. I then was able to go and teach at UW Oshkosh in the ROTC department for 1 semester last year, which was awesome to go back to where I commissioned from and help guide the next generation. But education doesn't stop, and the Army is always encouraging you to be a better person. So right now I'm halfway through an online degree program for a master's in ancient history through American Military University. And I'm also the Army is paying for me, that master's degree from AMU, they're paying for by federal tuition assistance, another benefit we get in education. And as a congressional fellow, I am right now a full-time master's student in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, getting paid my whole salary just to earn a degree. And then next year I'll serve as a member to a senator or a member of the House of Representatives, and then spend 2 years at the Pentagon working with senior leaders before returning back to Wisconsin in the field artillery. So, life enrichment through service and discipline. I explained the paid and free forms of education that the military has invested in me, and I'm really grateful for the perspective that I've gotten. Financially, I feel well paid and grateful to be in a structure that affords regular progression and advancement as well as transparent salary systems. By buying into the mindset of service and discipline, I stood out to my supervisors, and I've earned some accelerated promotions and some cool awards like the MacArthur one from the first slide. I've been named the Wisconsin USO Army Soldier of the Year, Wisconsin's Company Grade Officer of the Year, received the George C. Marshall Award, and then that doesn't even account for any of the medals and ribbons on my chest. So it's really rewarding to be in a job that recognizes you for doing something that you love. And that's, I can't say enough about how grateful I am to be in the Army. I also did not realize how lucky I was to be an American until I served overseas. And I know some of you in the bleachers are either foreign exchange students or you're just now starting a new life in America. So welcome. Our country is not perfect, but we keep working on making it better. I didn't join because I valued country. I joined because I didn't have any other promising options, and I didn't want to go through life wondering what if I had joined as I grew old. So on the following slides, I have some pictures that capture the cultural experience that I've gained through peacetime and wartime service. All right, so while stationed in Germany, which was my first assignment, I was able to travel a lot, including running with the Bulls in Spain and weekends in Rome. Been to about 20 countries. Here's a picture of a visit to Garmisch, home of the 1936 Olympics, and here's some free life advice. If you've never snowboarded before, don't make your first time down the Olympic runs on the Alps. It is a long and painful way down. But the Army gets you out on really good soldiers' trips that they plan to experience stuff like this. Here's a picture of me in a small town outside of Moscow with some Russian artillerymen that we got to do in a partner training exercise. And I recently spent a year in the United Arab Emirates, and we got to do a lot of really neat engagement with the Emiratis. And this is a picture of me accepting a gift from the commander of the Emirati Rocket Regiment for our unit partnership. The Emiratis are really gracious hosts. That's me with a camel, probably a little hard to see, but a camel from one of the officers' farms that we went and visited in the desert near Qatar. Let's see, and they also treated us to a traditional meal in the middle of the desert, and then we likewise shared our culture with them. This is a picture of gifts that were put together by my wife and mother and sent to me over in the UAE, and then when we went and did a live fire exercise in the desert on Christmas morning, we brought this out and we shared it with our Emirati counterparts, and although they don't celebrate Christmas, they had a heck of a time participating in our cultural experience, and it was great. And while peacetime led to many great memories, it's my combat deployments that opened my eyes the most. So This is a picture of children in Iraq as we stopped on a patrol to hand out some candy. We tried to brighten their days by bringing them things, but I think you can see through the picture, for those who can see it well enough, they're kind of crawling over a chain link fence to some extent to reach us. So the setting was a little dangerous, and they would crowd for candy, and they'd even fight each other for it. But we didn't want to contribute to that kind of behavior, so on some patrols we didn't bring anything, but that made it worse. By not bringing it, they kind of got even more angry. So I was able to see just through the lens of what life's like over there, and having two younger brothers, that stuff really resonated with me. Daily life in Iraq seemed pretty harsh. In this picture, you can see it wasn't uncommon for a business roof to be held together by a tarp and some pieces of rubble in order for them to keep going. But on the positive side, we also got to share knowledge, supplies, and the will to fight with the Iraqis. So here's a few pictures of a first aid class that we gave to the Iraqi Border Battalion, and the life-saving skills that they got from the U.S. Army were put to good use. And then here is a picture of the medic for the Iraqi Border Battalion. And although we didn't speak the same language, and our interpreter helps us do these things together, we became good friends. And this last picture, for those of you who can't see it, there's a member of the Army and an interpreter walking through a field with about 100 sheep just laying around inside of our Army base. And that is not what I was expecting to wake up next to the morning after a big firefight right out of our camp. But there were hundreds of sheep that were captured from smugglers who would take the sheep between Iraq and Syria to fund terrorism. Well, the Border Battalion caught them, and they brought them home because they get to distribute the contraband that they catch. Probably can't tell, but the two sheep on the left, they have big red dots painted on their butts. And this is because those sheep represent months of salary to some of the Iraqi army soldiers, and they were tagging them as their own. So when they had to go to their guard duty, they knew what sheep were theirs, and nobody could take it because they know, look, that red dot's mine. So that, just seeing what's important in other countries, comparing that to what's important in the U.S., sometimes it's hard to appreciate how good we have it here. So the advantages and disadvantages of service. An advantage is the camaraderie and the second family that you get as a member of a unit. And then the disadvantage there is that it's sometimes dangerous and full of hardship. Another advantage is the travel that you get to experience in the U.S. and overseas, but the disadvantage is the time away from your family during deployments or schools. And although those disadvantages are real, I argue that both of them still enrich life. The danger and hardship makes service more than just about you. It's about the people that you're serving with. And the time away from family, although I've missed out on some of that, what I gain is a constant reminder not to take them for granted. So although I miss them every time that I leave, I appreciate them every time that I come home. So my advice to you, I got 5 pieces of advice I would give myself if I was sitting in your shoes. The first, understand the value of diversity and compassion. The Army is stronger due to having a lot of different backgrounds. The Army does not care about your race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or what have you. What the Army cares about is your performance, your character, and your potential. And key to that is tolerance to people who are around you that are different. Live and let live. You don't have to like or even agree with how other people choose to live their lives. And in most cases, your judgment on their lifestyles doesn't matter. That's one thing that's easy to do when you wear a uniform in the Army. On duty, we all kind of look the same. But then off duty, everybody goes and lives their own lives. And in order to be an effective team, we need to give each other the space to be themselves, and then the confidence that the workplace is a safe zone. Number 2, practice resilience. Sometimes life gets hard. Whether it's the death of a loved one, a relationship issue, or financial stress, those pressures are real. And the first thing I'd like to point out is that seeking help is never a sign of weakness. I believe that we've lost a good quantity of soldiers and people to suicide that may have rebounded into happy lives if they were able to find a way to hold out a little longer and find some help and let the scars heal. The Army gets this point, and over the last 10 years, it's included resilience training. I've been certified as a master trainer in this program, which focuses on strengthening your mind and life outlook. Jocko Willink, who's an ex-Navy SEAL turned author and podcast host, he sums this up really well through his mantra, discipline equals freedom. And here's a video on how he finds the good in adversity.
One of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on, and he'd say, "Boss, we got this and that and the other thing." And I'd look at him and I'd say, "Good." And finally one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem, and he said, "I already know what you're going to say." And I said, "Well, what am I going to say?" He said, "You're going to say good." He said, "That's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good." And I said, "Well, yeah. When things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution." That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out, don't get startled, don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well, then hell, you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
All right, so to recap what number 2 was, take Jocko's advice and find the good in bad situations. Practice resilience. My third piece, don't fear commitment. As an officer recruiter, the number one reason that college kids were hesitant to join the military and the Army was because they were afraid of committing. They didn't want to be tied down to a multi-year thing. And I get that, but for me, commitment was the key to my opportunity. If I didn't commit to enlisting for 3 years, I don't think I would have nearly as rich of a feeling of life that I have with my experiences and where I'm at with my profession. So don't fear commitment. For you, it could be going in the military. It could be a college application. It could mean just registering for a fitness event like a 5K or a marathon. But whatever it is, I encourage you, just sign up and then don't quit on yourself. Number 4, beware of echo chambers. And what I mean by echo chambers, those are places where a person can go to hear exactly what they already believe. So in the social media age, you can get information to support anything that you want. And just because you find posts or articles supporting a particular point of view, that does not mean that they are right. The news media, politicians, and companies all want to influence your decisions. Make them earn your choices by being well-informed and read. And read from perspectives outside of your comfort zones to gain a better understanding. Number 5, know the difference between healthy and unhealthy competition. In this picture here, I have 3 guidons. So they're unit flags in the Army. A and B are on the bottom, Alpha and Bravo, and they're led by captains. Headquarters on the top, they're led by a lieutenant colonel, which is a few ranks higher. In both my commands, my unit's been Bravo. I've wanted to be the best. I wanted to be faster, smarter, and stronger than Alpha. But I never tried to make it a zero-sum game. And by that I mean, I never wanted Alpha to be embarrassed so that I would look good. That's short-sighted. When we go to war, Alpha and Bravo each need to perform. We can get better by competing with one another, but guess what? Soldiers in Alpha, they might get transferred or promoted into Bravo and vice versa. Bravo might get pinned down in a firefight and need Alpha to come bail them out. If Alpha makes a mistake and shoots a rocket at the wrong target, killing innocent civilians, is that good for me in Bravo? No. It makes us all look bad. And I've worked with soldiers that don't understand the difference, and they're dangerous. So respect your competition, compete with a humble spirit, and this applies in all settings, from the military to professional sports, the classroom, the North versus West high school rivalry, and just being an American as a whole. Don't try to gain advantage by stepping on others. Help them up, and we all get stronger. So for my final thoughts, service and discipline changed my life. To the students, I hope that I provided a different way to consider what it means to be a veteran, and I hope you learned something or found a source of inspiration from my story. For the teachers, administrators, and staff, it's kind of long overdue. I told you how rough I was in high school, but thank you for your service. I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for the foundation provided to me by Oshkosh North High School. And then finally, and most importantly, to the veterans. Here, again, I'm going to go to Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez, because he says it best when he summarizes the bond that we share, even though we might not know each other. He said, "For those that have fought for it, life has a special flavor that the protected will never know." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our Oshkosh North Chorale and Spartan Choir would now like to add their thanks to our nation's veterans by performing the song, "Tell My Father."
Tell my father that his son didn't run or surrender, that I bore his name with pride as I tried to remember. You are judged by what you do while passing through. As I rest 'neath fields of green, let him lean on my shoulder. Tell him how I spent my youth, so the truth could grow older. Tell my father when you can, I was a man. Tell him we will meet again, where the angels learn to fly. Tell him we will meet as men, for with honor did I die. Tell him how I wore the blue, proud and true through the fire. Tell my father so he'll know I love him so. Where the angels learn to fly. Tell him we will meet as men, for with honor did I die. Tell him how I wore the blue, proud and true, like he taught me. tell my father not to cry, then say goodbye.
Thank you, Oshkosh North Music Department. At this time, would everyone please rise as Oshkosh North senior Landon Hawley plays Taps as we remember those who have given their lives to defend our country. Please remain standing as the color guard retires our nation's colors. Please be seated.
Veterans Day is the support of America and the incredible networks of veterans, both young and old. The people who raised their right hands and voluntarily committed their service to our country to ensure that it stays safe and successful. November 11th is a day to recognize those who have served and to pause for a moment to reflect on the importance of their combined impact on this great country and the immense sacrifice of our fallen heroes. Knowing that our country knowing that the country they fought for stands behind them is incredibly powerful and inspiring, but not often recognized. These men and women deserve our gratitude for their willingness to serve this country and help protect our rights and our freedoms. The next time you exercise your freedom of speech, the right to vote, to move freely about the country, or to protect your family, you should thank a veteran. I would like to thank Captain Cody Anderson for his service and for sharing a piece of his journey with us. I'd also like to thank Elise Liskey for doing a wonderful job emceeing. And finally, to communities for their excellent effort in raising over $8,000 to help support Got Your Six Canines. I'd like to leave you with a short quote. May we think of freedom not as the right to do as we please, but as the opportunity to do what is right. Peter Marshall. Oshkosh North, use today to remember a veteran and do what is right. This concludes our program. We'll be dismissing our veterans first, and then from when our veterans leave our gymnasium, We will be dismissing to third hour. Thank you, Oshkosh North.